Hey guys, Sandra, welcome back to the channel. So guys, this is something that I've talked about continually, and yet people still aren't getting the message. It's disability and privacy. And there are times when your privacy needs to be invaded, it's enshrined in law, and that's generally when you're exhibiting extreme behaviours of concern, are a threat to yourself or a threat to others, or going to cause significant emotional or physical harm to others, and you need to be in a facility where you can be safely supported by mental health professionals and medical professionals if needed. But guys, I consult for some independent support workers. Full disclosure there, I do not get paid. But guys, one of them was saying, hey, I'm going to start a podcast talking about experiences with clients, how I think I could have handled them better. I immediately was horrified, and I posted that into a support group that I belong to. They've asked to remain anonymous, so I'm going to respect it. And the general comments was, it depends on the circumstances, privacy would have to be respected. And then we realised the NDIS and disability community through the internet is very connected, and it's not 7 degrees of separation, it's about 5. Then when I looked further into what this podcast was going to be about, it wasn't going to be promoting his services, talking about the NDIS, talking about disability. No, it was going to be talking about how he essentially rescued these people from themselves. And that isn't a great start for a podcast. And guys, this fundamentally destroys the underpinnings of person-centered care, because this is essentially using those clients' experiences and life for profit. It's not a noble cause of, hey, this is what a behaviour of concern is, this is what's an activity of daily living. It wasn't seemed to be, hey, my client and I want to start a podcast. Great idea. No, it was, I want to start a podcast talking about how I could have handled this better and growth as a support worker. No. Privacy and having our privacy invaded is a huge issue. It's a huge issue. And guys, I've seen it used as an excuse by some support agencies. Oh, so-and-so can't do that. You can't have other agencies in the house because it's a privacy issue. And yes, genuinely, it is a privacy issue. It might be an insurance issue. But having a podcast where your autistic meltdown, your ADHD moment, you getting frustrated is going to be broadcast to the whole world, it's quite frankly quite demeaning and demoralizing. So guys, privacy is mandatory, and that also includes talking to other people about experiences, whether the client, and I am a stickler for using the word client, not participant, because we are a client of the services we use. And it reminds less than ethical support workers that they are doing a job. And there is a mandatory NDIS code of ethics that both agency and independent support workers need to use. And I know independent support workers have a lot less restrictions, but the agency rules are generally there for a reason. They're to protect both the clients and staff as well. But privacy is a huge issue, and this, quite frankly, is unprofessional. So even things that you wouldn't think about, we've had experiences of, and this also adds to what we call the mental burden of disability. You would have heard, especially if you've been following the news, with the NDIS reset, because there's a lot of fear and anxiety around not having plan managers and support coordinators. So guys, they play a critical role in the NDIS. And I can understand where they're coming from, but I'm going to be very interested to see where it looks like. But going back to the privacy issues, yeah, I totally get not having other agencies in your housing facility unless you're living independently and it's private rental, or what the agreements are between other carers and family members and guardians for the other residents. Totally and utterly get that. But when you're actively doing a podcast or a TikTok without their consent, or thinking that you have a right to essentially rescue these cells from their cell, that is parentification and learnt helplessness. NDIS is fundamentally against this. It's about learning those skills so you need less support. And the overall consensus in this Facebook support group was it's exceedingly unprofessional and very badly thought out. And I know I've done videos that have been very thought out, and then videos that aren't very well thought out. And we are, quite frankly, human. Everyone's human, everyone makes mistakes. But when you're a support worker, you need to realize that you're working with vulnerable adults and vulnerable people in general. And so this is where being professional is really important. And what that professionalism is going to look very different between agency to agency, organisation to organisation, business to business, and whether you're an independent support worker, whether you're an agency worker, and whether you're at a values-driven organisation, a religious-centred organisation, whether you're in a day centre, community centre, that's going to look different. But respecting that person's privacy is not doing the notes where people can see you. If the client wishes to, involving them in the writing of their notes about them, not talking about people where you can be overheard by the general public. And asking permission to share experiences, especially online, because whether you delete them or not, online is forever. And you don't know what's going on in that person's head at the time. And you don't know what kind of security risk that you might be putting that person under as well. So guys, if you guys are a support worker, I know I've got some people who are support workers and some people who are in the media. Shout out to those who are in the media. I hope you guys are well. You guys know who you are. Again, I can't mention their names as well. And guys, so this is a really interesting topic about the thoughtlessness of, I'm just going to start a podcast about this. And guys, nothing for us without us has been there for a reason. So guys, I just want to start the comments. I'm going to turn comments on about what would be your thought if you heard a support worker say, I'm going to start a podcast talking about experiences with clients and how I think I could have handled them better. Would you consent to that? Or would you be in my camp thinking that's incredibly unprofessional, using us as we have heard this said by independent support workers, using us as your cash cow. Guys, we aren't your cash cow. We aren't your employee. In fact, you're actually technically ours. Guys, I know in a housing situation that can be very tricky to manage, but essentially, if you're a private support worker, you are our employee. That, I know, it's a very generalised statement, and it's something that we need to look at in capability, mental age, physical age, all of those things as well. But it comes down to respect and choice and control. Guys, I would be grateful. And I know that there's some opportunities coming in my life in the new year. If a independent support worker, you were complaining that you were bored or whatever, said, hey, let's start the podcast together and talk about our experiences, how we could have handled it better, and have it from both sides, I reckon that would be a fantastic resource. But to talk about people without their consent, breaching their privacy, and believing that because you're their support worker, yes, you are improving their lives, but that you have that right to breach their privacy and talk about some of their most vulnerable moments is not a good idea. So guys, welcome to my new patrons as well. Thank you, and welcome to the new subscribers. The newsletter has gone out, and guys, I know there was 2 newsletters last week. If you're in that inner circle, you'll know exactly why. Guys, I do some craft on the side, so let me know if you're a patron or patron I am not monetized on YouTube yet, so I can't do merch with YouTube's backing yet, but I do definitely have the Patreon. If you guys would buy some of the painting, artwork, and craft I do, let me know in the comments below. And you can also, guys, I do have a free tier of the Patreon as well, but it is starting from $3, and so we can help maintain the channel, because otherwise I am looking at going back to some level of part-time work as well. So guys, if you can like, share, subscribe, and definitely comment, especially if you're a support coordinator, support worker, what would you think if you found out on any platform a support worker was talking about their experiences with a client? And what would you feel about it? And if you're a person who, or have a family member with an NDIS package or other package who receives support and care, what would your thoughts be if you were able to identify that that was your loved one through that post? So guys, I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a safe and happy Christmas, those who celebrate as well.